have been times in the winter when I have regretted being a vet, and this looked like one of them. I had driven about 10 miles from home, thinking all the time that the dales always looked their coldest when they were covered with snow. But as now, when the first sprinkling streaked the bare flanks of the bales in the bar, black and white like the ribs of a couching beast, and now in front of me was a farm gate, rattling on its hinges and shook in the wind. Do you know what a vet is? A doctor for animals. Draughty as it was, seemed like a haven in an uncharitable world, and I gripped the wheel tightly with my wooden gloved hands, and a few moments after opening the door, the wind almost tore the handle from my fingers as I got out. But I managed to crash the door shut before stumbling over the frozen mud to the gate. Muffled as I was in heavy coat and scarf pulled up to my ears, I could feel the icy gusts biting at my face, whipping at my nose, hammering painfully into the spaces in my head. I had driven through, streaming-eyed, and about to get back into the car when I noticed something unusual. There was a frozen pond just off the path, and among the rime-covered rushes with fringed dead animals of the surface, a small object stood out, shiny and black. What do you think this is going to be? I think we're going to find something alive in the bush. I went over and looked closer. It was a tiny kitten, probably about 6 weeks old, huddled and immobile, eyes closed tightly. Bending down, I poked gently at the furry body. It must be dead. A morsel like this couldn't possibly survive the cold. But no, there was a spark of life because the mouth opened soundlessly for a second when closed. As I drove into the farmyard, I called to the farmer who was carrying 2 buckets out of the calf house. "I've got one of your kittens here, Mr. Butler. It must have strayed outside." Mr. Butler put down his buckets and looked blank. "Kitten? We have no kittens." I showed him my find, and he looked more puzzled. "Well, that's a run 'em. There's a black cat on this spot. We're all sorts of colors, but no black ones." "Well, he must have come from somewhere else," I said, "though I can't imagine anything so small traveling very far. It's rather mysterious." Big work, rough in hand. Poor little beggar. He's only just barely alive. I'll take him into the house and see if the missus can warm him up. In the farm kitchen, Mrs. Butler was all concerned. "Oh, what a shame! She bedraggled hair, and it's got such a pretty face." She looked up at me. "What is it anyway? A him or a her?" I took a quick look behind the hind legs. "It's a him." "Right," she said. "I'll get some warm milk into him, but first we all give him the cold cure." She went over to the fire and opened the big black kitchen oven and popped him inside the oven. I smiled. It was a classical procedure when newborn lambs were found suffering from cold and exposure. Into a warm oven they went, and the results were dramatic. I could just see the little black kitten inside. He didn't seem to care much what was happening to him. The next hour I spent watching him with the cow. The cleats were overgrown and grossly misshapen, upturned, causing the animal to hobble on his heels. My job was to pare and hack away the excess horn, and my long-held opinion that the hind feet of a cow were never meant to be handled by a man. We had a rope around the hog and leg up over the beam and the roof, but the leg still pistoned back and forth, and I hung on with my teeth rattling. By the time I'd finished, the sweat was running into my eyes, and I had quite forgotten the cold outside. This is the talking about the man taking the kinks from my spine. When I finished, there were compensations. There was satisfaction in the sight of the cow standing comfortably on two almost normal-looking feet. Well, that's a summit, Mr. Butler grinned. Come in the house and wash your hands. In the kitchen, as I bent over the brown earthenware sink, I kept glancing across at the oven. Mrs. Butler laughed. Oh, he's still with us. Come and have a look. It was difficult to see the kitten in the dark oven, but I spotted him and I put my hand out and touched him, and he turned his head toward me. He's coming around, I said. That hour in there has done wonders. Doesn't often fail, the farmer's wife lifted him out. I think he's a little tough one. She began to spoon warm milk into the tiny mouth. I reckon we'll have him lapping up that milk in a day or two. You're going to keep him then? Too true we are. We're going to call him Moses. Moses, aye, you found him among the rushes, didn't you? I laughed. That's right, it's a good name. Moses. Farmers rarely have their cats indoors, and I thought that if that black kitten had survived, he would have joined the rest of the animals outside. Farm cats have a pretty good time. They may not be petted much, but they always seem to be free and have a fun life. They're expected to catch mice, but if they're not so inclined, there's an abundant food at hand, bowls of milk from the cows, and there's the dog dishes to be raided if you needed to. Others friendly and purring. There was a tabby loping gracefully across the cobbles, and a big tortoise shell was curled on a bed of straw at the warm end of the brie. Cats are connoisseurs of comfort. Look in the house, and a white tomcat regarded me pleasantly from between the bars of a hay rack where he had been taking a nap, but there was no sign of Moses. I finished drying my arms and was about to make a casual reference to the kitten when Mr. Butler handed me my jacket. Come around here with me. You've got to see something. I followed him through the door at the end and across a passage into the long, low-roofed piggery. He stopped at the pen about halfway down and pointed inside. Look there, he said. I leaned over the wall, and my face must have shown my astonishment because the farmer burst into a shout of laughter. That's something new for you, isn't it?
Moses.
Baby pigs.
Hey, Moses. Baby pigs.
Baby pigs.
I want Moses.
We gotta find Moses. I started unbelievably down a large snowy stretch, and then after the pigs, a litter of about 12 pigs, and right in the middle of the long pink row, Fury Black was Moses. Moses is nursing with the baby pigs. He thinks the mama pig is his mama, because he doesn't have a mama. It was Mrs. Idea, the farmer said. When she got that little one lapping milk, she took him right out to a warm spot for him in the building. She settled on this pin because the saw, Bertha, had just had a litter and had a heater in it, and it was grand and cozy. I nodded. Sounds just right. Well, she put Moses and a bowl of milk in there, the farmer went on, but the little feller didn't stay by the heater very long. Next time I looked in, he was around at the milk bar. I shrugged my shoulders. You see something new every day at this game, but this is something I've never seen or heard of. Anyway, he does actually live on the sow's milk, or does he still drink from his bowl? Bit of both, I reckon. It's hard to say. Anyway, whatever mixture Moses was getting, he grew rapidly into a sleek, handsome animal with an unusually glossy coat, which may or may not have been the mama pig's milk, making his coat so shiny. It has grown up. I never went to the Butlers without having a look in the pig pen. Bertha, his foster mother, seemed to find nothing unusual about his hairy intruder and pushed him around occasionally to please grunts, just as she did with the rest of her children. Moses, for his part, appeared to find the society of pigs very comfortable. When the piglets curled up together and settled down for a sleep, Moses would be somewhere in the heap, and when his young friends were weaned at 8 weeks, he showed his attachment to Bertha by spending most of his time with her. Over the years, often he would be right inside the pen, rubbing himself happily with the comforting bulk of the sow, but I remember him best in his favorite place, crouching on a wall, looking down perhaps on what has been his first warm home.